So, the Battlefield 5 open beta ended not too long ago, and reception so far has been fairly mixed. Many seem to agree that the moment-to-moment shooting mechanics do feel great, but they also notice that there's a general lack of content, a regression in the way progression is handled, questionable decisions on certain features, so on and so forth. Then there's the whole debacle surrounding EA censoring phrases like white man in the chat while letting black man and references to any other races slide, as well as terms like DLC, unless the word free is included right before it, which gives off the impression that the publisher's trying to steer the conversation towards a direction they deem favorable, while preemptively trying to prevent potential discussions that might be sensitive for the company. I mean, even the word Nazi was censored in a game whose source material involves a historical event where Nazi presence was prominent, and in a game where you get to shoot people from the Nazi faction. And beyond all that, there are still those who are conflicted about Battlefield 5's divisively over-the-top take on World War II. There are definitely those out there who don't care that much about the idea of an exaggerated interpretation of the war, but many others feel as though this isn't what they wanted out of a World War II-inspired Battlefield entry, and in turn, they are not particularly fond of imagery like disabled female British soldiers with a prosthetic arm and a spiked cricket bat in the front lines, or a male British soldier wielding a katana. Now, the criticism surrounding the over-the-top aspects of the game was something that DICE developers acknowledged recently. The following information comes from an official Battlefield 5 livestream hosted a few days back on September 8th, 2018. And among the topics that came up was the negative reception towards the very first reveal trailer that EA showed off during Battlefield 5's pre-E3 event. Addressing the topic, here's what some of the developers had to say.
Okay, so back at the reveal trailer, we saw some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, we did.
Okay?
Yeah.
The community's like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see that massively crazy customization items.
No, we heard.
Did you guys change it? Did you guys adapt from that?
We didn't. We're still looking at World War II through the lens of DICE's lens, right? Like there's, I mean, but how forward, how crazy we got with some of that. We heard the community. We understand there were some concerns about, hey, where's the authenticity? And so we want players to be excited about customizing your characters with authentic gear, right? So
that's doing it.
It's going to look pretty awesome. Yeah. Like, look at even this guy right here. It looks pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then now imagine as you continue to change and modify with the hat and the helmet and face paint, and you add different looks.
So that's cool. So you guys heard the feedback.
Yeah.
You kind of, went back to not went back all the way to the drawing board, but you were like, okay,
we dialed it back a bit, right? Like it was pretty crazy. There were a lot of things out there. So for this, we wanted to make sure that we're offering some authenticity to it.
You've gotta love the complete backtrack that EA and DICE are doing here, despite everything they've said against naysayers in the past. Remember back when DICE general manager Oscar Gabrielson tweeted back in May 25th, 2018, a string of tweets fully defending the initial reveal trailer. He said, quote, "First, let me be clear about one thing. Player choice and female playable characters are here to stay. We want Battlefield 5 to represent all those who were part of the greatest drama in human history and give players choice to choose and customize the characters they play with. Our commitment as a studio is to do everything we can to create games that are inclusive and diverse. We always set out to push boundaries and deliver unexpected experiences. But above all, our games must be fun. The Battlefield sandbox has always been about playing the way you want, like attempting to fit 3 players on a galloping horse with flamethrowers. With Battlefield 5, you also get the chance to play as who you want. This is everyone's Battlefield." DICE executive producer Alexander Grondal also chimed in by tweeting the following: "We will always put fun over authentic." And then there is Battlefield 5 design director Alan Kurtz, who said the following on Reddit: "I knew this was going to be a fight when I pushed for female soldiers in Battlefield. I have a daughter, and I don't want to ever have to answer her question of why can't I make a character that looks like me with because you're a girl. I fundamentally feel to my core this is the right way, and I will find myself on the right side of history." I also know a lot in society has changed, and for me personally, I grew up a bit and looked at the world with my new eyes. From within the industry, we have seen so much male domination for whatever reason, and I work for a studio and a company that recognizes the value of diversity in what we do as game makers. That's been a big deal for me also. Sometimes just enough things come together to make it happen. It felt like an inevitability. The excuses were running out and the support was there, so it happens now. According to PC Gamer, who transcribed his Reddit posts, Alan also predicted that many people will play the game despite their reservations and learn something about either history or themselves, though as we all know now, Battlefield 5's pre-order sales have performed far below par compared to the competition as well as past entries in the series. Finally, on players complaining about historical accuracy, he said, quote, "We want to create the most immersive experience we can create, and that pushes us towards physical and some authentic elements. We also want it to be engaging in the long term. That's always a balancing act. I'm sure we hit that mark, not for everyone, but we will hit the mark." Of course, let's also not forget Patrick Soderlund's remarks generalizing those critical of Battlefield 5's adaptation of the iconic war as uneducated, while challenging them to not buy the game if they can't accept it. So yeah, after all the grandstanding on both EA and DICE's part, it would seem as though all it took for them to waver in their defense for their balls to the walls take of World War II and start touting authenticity as a hallmark was seeing pre-order sales drastically falter. We have also seen a change in attitude through the most recent trailers, which show none of the bizarre visual elements that were so proudly conveyed in the initial first trailer, sticking instead to something that looks more like a traditional World War II shooter. The result is that while they're still not backing down when it comes to the inclusion of female soldiers in the front lines, it does seem as though they're taking a few steps back where some of the bizarre aesthetics are concerned, which perhaps means that things like katanas and prosthetic limbs will be taken out of the picture when it comes to frontline soldiers. That's what many would like to think at least, but then when asked if we can expect some of the crazier cosmetic elements down the line, DICE developers had this to say.
So I play a lot of different games, and I like Wacky, right? Like, I know for me, that's something that I dig. Is there potential for maybe a wacky thing here and there, like, you know, here, or you can shut me down right now. You can shut me down and be like, no, we want to keep it true to World War II.
So look, it's is it possible? Nothing's off the table. I think we'll watch how the community reacts, how players, you know, maybe we'll try something.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, the nice thing with something like the Armory is that we can put something out there. If it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. But you know, first and foremost, we want to start with this authenticity approach.
So basically, they're leaving the door open for the more over-the-top cosmetic elements to be included down the line in future updates. Honestly, it would surprise me if EA didn't eventually mandate wackier cosmetics down the line due to the monetization potential they have there. Much like with everything EA does, the sudden backtracking towards listening to feedback regarding authenticity feels like a tactical retreat responding to backlash rather than a genuine attempt to rectify qualms from a vocal community. The thing that's been plaguing Battlefield 5 since announcement has been the shoddily put together marketing campaign, which has been all over the place. One day they're making a stance for how fun and inclusiveness is way more important than authenticity. Then next thing you know, they're touting the importance of authenticity, but then right after that, they're leaving the door open for the game to go back to being more whimsical. It's like they have no idea what they want with this game. They need to either fully commit to a fantastical take on World War II and make that message very clear, or strive to take authenticity more seriously and make that message clear. They can't have it both ways. All that will do, and has already done, is confuse consumers and subvert expectations for all the wrong reasons. In the end, Battlefield 5 went for a strange amalgam of attempted authenticity coupled with jarring alterations to the World War II setting, and this direction isn't sitting well with many of the fans, most of who likely expected the game to be on the more authentic end of the spectrum, given the kind of history the Battlefield series has. There is this disparity and lack of cohesion in Battlefield 5's vision, with the game often feeling like it's World War II with extraneous crap tacked on. Initially, EA and DICE seemed pretty confident in shunning critics, but the lackluster pre-order sales definitely ruffled a few corporate feathers, as we have seen a drastic shift in EA and DICE's demeanor. Though after all this time, after all they've said in the past, and how they've carried themselves over the last few months, I wonder if skeptics will see any of these recent gestures as genuine, not to mention that first impressions are everything, and EA's marketing botched not only Battlefield 5's first impressions, but also the second and third ones. If you ask me, those who are turned off by Battlefield 5's portrayal of World War II are unlikely to be convinced by flimsy reassurances promising to dial back the wackiness while leaving the door open for it down the line, and with the game's lack of thematic cohesion on both its interpretation of an iconic historical event and its marketing, it's really not inspiring much confidence among the general public. Though I suppose only time will tell if EA and DICE can manage to turn things around in the 2 months they have left before the game launches, if they can dig themselves out of this deep hole they have made for themselves. These are just one man's perspective on the situation anyway. I'd love to hear what your assessment is in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content and would like to support this channel directly, consider donating on Patreon. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.